Hello, good morning. Thanks for your time. Let's talk more about what is going on, what you're asking the Equality Court to do. I think we've had a bit of an explanation there, but just tell us, I mean, other than what we saw, and the issue became an issue of late during Black Monday, where we saw the display of these flags, where else are we seeing them being displayed without shame, if I were to put it that way?
Yeah, thank you very much and good morning. I think for us, the big thing that we're trying to drive home here is that it's become normalized now that whenever people are disgruntled, then they'll pull out the flag and use the flag to drive their point home. And it's this thing that we need to be fighting to say it's not normal behavior, therefore it should be called out for what it is. You'd remember that with apartheid, nobody can claim that they supported apartheid at all. So apartheid was a very strong system that oppressed the majority, but very few will raise their hands and say, I was fully behind it. The only time you see those who still want those days back is when the flag is hauled out. And we're saying the flag belongs in the museum. It's an archival piece to remind us of the past we do not want. I think
for those, Selvan, and I think it's worth just delving into, is for those, who, like you say, who do it as a form of protest or when they're angry or upset about something, just explain to those people what it actually means when you pull out a flag like that. It's not just a piece of material, it's not just in the moment, it's a whole lot more than that.
I think the symbolism is what it represents. And one needs to appreciate that apartheid was declared a crime against humanity. You cannot celebrate a crime like that. You cannot want it back because it reminds us of the time when black people you could just whip them as you wish. You could tell them they couldn't walk on this pavement or on this pathway. You could just do as you pleased. In order to discriminate and oppress black people. Now, it can't be right that in this day and age, the symbolism, the very symbol that represented that oppression is then celebrated. And we're saying it's about time that South Africa then comes to the reality that says, like the Germans did, to say all these symbols that remind us of the people that we were, that we never want to be, we should then be making the same declaration as South Africans to say, as we reminisce about our past, we must never then be saying the good old days when we know that it was never good. It can never be good and it can never be celebrated.
So you're asking the Equality Court to do what? To declare this as hate speech? Is that tantamount to criminalizing the use of the oath?
No, we're not asking that it be criminalized, but that once it's declared like that, we are hoping that then those people will be called out and a fine will be issued against those who do it. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh recently said that apartheid is not gone, it's just privatized. And what it means is that what AfriForum recently argued was that it's okay for you to own the flag and use it privately. Just don't come out waving it in the streets.
And is that okay?
That's the question we ask ourselves.
To have it in your home?
Because when you have it in your home, it means that you're privatizing racism. You're privatizing discrimination in the form that you then have people who, young people particularly, who would see this as normal behavior. And it's around dinner tables that you can then say disparaging things about black people and how you miss those good old days. And it's this that leads to young people. As we've seen at the University of the Free State recently, where young people wouldn't stand up when the national flag or national anthem was sung, the bit about which has the African languages, they didn't stand up. They just sat and continued chatting with their caps on. When the Afrikaans bit came up, they then stood up, took off their caps and started singing. So it's that we're saying, let's not think this is normal behavior. We must call it out. We must say it cannot be normal in a society that's trying to rebuild itself, that's trying to reimagine itself as something else. Because we're dealing with people who are hurt. people who are dealing with their woundedness. And as long as we privatize these things, it means that we're poisoning the future and wounding the future.
Now, you know you're going to get those who are going to come out and say, but, you know, it's my right to my freedom of expression to express how I feel. You can't tell me what I talk about around my dinner table, you know, if the flag is at the center of the table. What do you say to those people?
You know, we treat freedom of expression as if it doesn't have limitations. It has limitations too. And we're asking the court to then declare that even with the freedom of expression, we are the champions of freedom of expression and people who advocate it all the time. But it must also have its limitations, and it's those limitations that we try to then get through.
So it's one thing, sort of seeing the physical flag flying over somebody's farm or house, whatever it is. Social media poses a whole different sort of area of policing, is it that, at the moment, as we saw on Black Monday at the time?
You know, and thank you for reminding me of Black Monday. And it was social media that brought it to our attention. On the day we were on Robben Island, on that Black Monday, we had taken the leadership of the DA to Robben Island. And it was there that we then realized that as we were going through the pain that Madiba and others had gone through, that these images then started coming through. I think it's not just about being policed for doing the wrong things. Friends on social media also have a responsibility to say, not in my name. And it's that we want to then emphasize, that Penny Sparrow didn't just come out. It was her friends who then said, you cannot say that. We have people like my granny had to go through this pain every time of being called a Bobeyan during the school holidays. And we excuse racism. We always excuse racism. We'd say, no, they are too young. They would understand one day. If they are not too young, they are too old. Let's not take them on. It is something that needs to be called out, and called out consistently.
So if we say, then it belongs in a museum, you display there. Even then, how do you contextualize it in history? How do you hope, or how do you plan for it to have its place, and what is that place in a museum, for example?
Museums are the places which are better placed to do that. Archives, because they tend to give you the wrapping of why this flag existed. They tend to give you the context of the time and why it was so evil. The system was so evil that the representation of the flag means that one celebrates that evil. And it's that we think needs to then be remembered. And another reminder for South Africans, something that we're fast forgetting, was that apartheid was a crime against humanity. And we must never forget that. Suddenly we've forgotten that, and people can then celebrate a crime when they were fighting another crime of farm killings. And then how do you celebrate one crime which oppressed the majority in our country, and then you say, no, actually we are here to fight a crime. And I think we then saying, let's just be able to do this in a museum where it's explained, and those who want to then know about that past we can't wish it away, can then at least know about it there.
Okay, it'll be very interesting to see how this pans out, Sello. Now you're approaching the Equality Court. You've approached them already.
We have approached
What are we waiting for?
So we're waiting for a response from AfriForum, because back after Black Monday, we issued a statement saying maybe South Africans should debate this, whether it should be banned. And AfriForum said they will defend that decision if it ever came to that. And we are saying maybe it's time that they do, and they will then have to come to court and defend it.
Okay, let's see what happens. Good luck to you. Thanks very much. CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Sello Hatang, joining us on Morning News Today.